Hey, all right. I think that we are live. So how's everyone doing? I am Tyler Herrinton. This is Ashley Herrinton, and we are the Herrintons. We are a husband and wife wedding photography and videography team based here in Richmond, Virginia. And Ash, do you want to say hello to the people?
Hey guys, we're gonna kind of stall here for a little bit and wait for people to hop on a bit.
So I just want to kind of make sure everyone's kind of oriented correctly here. So if you're watching from our website, you may not be able to see the chat box. So there should be a chat box, but you have to be on YouTube to view it. So if you're looking at the box on our website, go ahead and click on the little YouTube button in the bottom right-hand corner, and that should jump you over to YouTube. There should be a chat box on the right side of your screen. Go ahead and ask those questions. Ash is going to be monitoring the chat box throughout the entire webinar here. So feel free to ask any questions you have right over there. Let's see. We're still waiting for some more people to jump on here. So first time doing this, so we're not exactly sure what to expect. So looks like we have one viewer. Let's see here how we're doing. It looks like we're live. If anybody's out there, you can go ahead and leave us a comment or something in the chat box so we can see. Here we go, we got some people joining. So if you guys are just jumping on, we are Tyler and Ashley Herrinton. We are the Herrintons, a wedding photography and videography team based here in Richmond, Virginia. And today we're gonna be talking all about gear. We're still waiting a few more minutes for people to jump on here. So if you are on the website and you can't see the chat box, you have to be on the YouTube page for that. So go ahead and click on the little YouTube button in the bottom right-hand corner of the box there on the website, and that should open it up in YouTube. The chat box should be on the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and see if that chat box is working. So whoever's out there, you guys just say just where you're from.
It's working.
All right, perfect. Awesome. So yeah, everybody, if you guys just say like where you're from, you know, how long you've been making wedding films, that kind of deal, that would be awesome. So we make sure the chat box is working.
Yep, and if you want to start leaving your questions there, you can do that too. That'll be really helpful for us to kind of maneuver that part too. Yeah,
so we're going to do a live Q&A later. I'm going to talk a little bit first, give you guys some information, and then afterwards we're going to have a quick little Q&A. So feel free to ask any questions while I'm talking. I can stop and ask some that are, if they're relevant to what I'm talking about. If I don't answer them, just don't worry, Ash is going to write them all down, and I'll make sure that I answer them later in the Q&A part. So
yes. So we're gonna kind of just start and talk a little bit about ourselves and kind of how our business started. We always say that the foundation of our business is really storytelling, and that has a lot to do with our own story as a husband and wife, and how that began way back in our dating relationship. Ty started the business when he was in college, and we never talked about doing the business together before we got married, but it kind of became this thing that we couldn't imagine doing without the both of us doing, and there was ways that I brought strengths to the table that Ty couldn't, being a woman, and was able to connect with our brides in just a different way that he could. So that's how we kind of started in the business together, and as a husband and wife team, it's been really fun to kind of do this business together and work with different couples and really do weddings together, and the industry is just a fun place to be. And you want to?
Yeah, so like Ash said, I started doing the business when I was in college. I started actually just doing photography, and I made a pretty natural transition over into the video side of things, and so that's kind of what brings us to today. So I wanted to talk about gear, mostly just because I love talking about gear. I love it doesn't matter if it's running shoes or watches or whatever. I just love talking about stuff. But when it comes to weddings, we want to make sure that we really emphasize that although, again, we're talking about gear today and that there is value in gear and knowing how to use these tools, ultimately, we believe that these are just tools that we use to tell stories. And when I first started out doing this, I didn't have hardly any gear. All I had was a few lenses and a camera, and I was still able to make wedding films because it's not about the gear solely. It's It's about the story, and everything we do points back to the story. But if you feel comfortable with the gear that you have and what gear is out there, and make sure that the gear you have is really working for you instead of working against you, it just helps you to tell better stories. And you're less focused on the camera that's in your hands, and you're more focused on the moment that's happening in front of your lens. So today we're just going to talk about gear. We're going to talk about all this fun stuff. I just wanted to preface this whole talk with that, is that ultimately everything's about the story, and everything that we do from a gear perspective is to help us further our story. So Ashley's going to go jump over here and make sure she's monitoring all the questions and all that good stuff. And I'm going to kind of jump right into it. So I'm going to switch views here so I can see y'all's comments as they're coming in, just so I have a general idea, so I can respond to some of you here. So, all right, so we got people from Blacksburg and all over the place. So this is great. All right, so the way I'm kind of just going to format this is I'm going to kind of just run through all the gear that we use on a normal wedding shoot, and I am going to sort of talk in between just about why is it that we're using the gear that we do, and everything that we try and do with intentionality. So we're going to jump right into it. So first of all, I'm just going to start with lenses, right? So for lenses, we primarily shoot with prime lenses, which are fixed focal length lenses. And just a real quick rundown, the prime lenses that we use are the Canon 28 1.8, the 35 1.4, the Canon 50mm 1.2 and 1.4, the Canon 85 1.2, the Canon 85 1.8, the Canon 100mm macro 2.8, and then the Canon 70 to 200 2.8. So we get asked a lot, why we choose primes over zooms. I know that zooms are often popular choices to use for weddings and things like that. And the real reason that I love primes is their shallow depth of field. They're able to give you that really nice look. You can shoot them with a wider aperture. They're small and compact compared to bigger and heavier zooms. And they really force you to be creative. When I first was starting out, I only had maybe 3 lenses to choose from, and it really forces you to think about your shots ahead of time. It really forces you to think, where you want to be, when you want to be there, and kind of pre-plan what you're doing. And if you only have this one focal length on your camera, you've got to get a good shot. So you've got to start thinking about more creative compositions. Maybe if you're not exactly as close or as far back as you want to be, you've got to start getting creative. So primes are really, really awesome, and they definitely have their place, as well do zooms. We do use a few zooms. I just bought the Sigma 18 to 35 1.8, which is just a crop sensor lens only, so I can only use it on my C100. I can't use it on the 5D. And then the 70 and 200. And obviously the advantages of the primes, of the zooms rather, is that they give you more versatility. You have a wider zoom range. You always have flexibility, those types of things. But we do prefer the primes, and we shoot mostly with the primes throughout the day. So let me see here. So I'm sorry guys, really quick, I'm gonna try and pull up the chat. So if you guys are asking me any questions, I can answer them as we're going here. So let's see if I can find where that is. All right, let's see. All right, so like I said, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to just throw them out, and Ashley's going to relay them to me. I can't see the chat as I'm doing this. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them out there, and Ashley's just going to forward them to me. Okay, Ash, you got that? Yeah. All right. Awesome. So, all right, so we covered lenses. Those are lenses that we use, why we use them. The next thing to talk about, obviously, is our cameras. So we shoot with 3 main cameras, and then we have a 4th extra camera. So the cameras that we use are the Canon C100, the Canon 5D Mark III, and the Canon 6D. We also have a Canon 60D that we use as a 4th angle. And some really interesting things going on right now in the world of wedding filmmaking and just like video cameras in general. DSLRs broke out of the market around 2008 with the 5D Mark II, and it was huge. It revolutionized the way that people were able to make films. For the first time ever, you could get this really amazing cinematic look out of these really small compact cameras, and they worked really, really well, and they produced an amazing image. And for the first 3 years that I did weddings, that's all I used was DSLRs. So just recently, I upgraded to the Canon C100, and the Canon C100, if you don't know, is a video camera, part of the cinema line from Canon, and it is only for video. It doesn't take stills, doesn't anything like that, and it has some major advantages. It has built-in ND filters. It has tools built in that help you get perfect exposure, such as waveforms, focus peaking, zebras. It has unlimited recording time. It gives you the ability to punch in while you're recording. It has XLR inputs, all these different things that are only able to be used for video. So the question is kind of, why? What is the advantage of using this C100 over the DSLRs? And what is there, which one is right for me, which one is wrong? So if you're just starting out and you're looking to get a camera, the DSLR is the way to go. They're more affordable. They give you everything you need. There's tons of lenses for them, all that stuff. But the C100, definitely has its place, and I love the C100 for so many different reasons. A lot of them I just mentioned. But the really interesting thing that I think is breaking into the weddings right now is this with Sony. Sony's doing a ton of really awesome stuff with their Sony A7 line, which are mirrorless cameras, and they have all the video features that you would find in that C100 with a body that's even smaller than the DSLR. So it's just a really interesting dynamic that's going on right now, and a really interesting change. There's pros and cons to all of these, but for us and what we're doing, we use the C100. It's able to give us the control and the ability that we want to tell the stories that we want to. It helps us to punch in, to have unlimited recording. All these different things really just help us to make sure that we're not constrained as much with the DSLRs. But again, if you're just starting off in the DSLRs, you can definitely use them. They're a great tool to be used. So then the next thing I want to talk about is audio recorders and mics. Now, audio recorders and mics are huge, huge, huge. Because for us, when we're talking about building the story and the story of the wedding, we really use the audio to drive everything that we do. It's really the backbone of our films, and we edit to, and all these different things. So capturing good, clean audio is super, super important for us. So the mics that we use on camera are the Rode Video Mic Pro. We also use a Rode NT-G4 Plus on the C100. And then for a lavalier mic, we use the Countryman B6, which is a teeny tiny little lav mic that is just amazing for miking the groom. So then with those, obviously you'd have to have something to record the sound. So the shotgun mics, they'll just record straight into the camera. But then as far as recorders go, we use a Roland RO5, which is a small pocket recorder that we put on the groom, and a Tascam DR40, which is a bigger field recorder that we use, and we usually tap that into the DJ sound booth to record speeches and things like that. So the reason that I use the Roland RO5, which is a wired recorder, so there's no wireless involved, is because I just think that for what I'm doing, it's so much simpler for the groom on the wedding day. He doesn't have to worry about getting the pack. I don't have to worry about having batteries and monitoring and all these different things that can go wrong. I just put the lav on him, hide it somewhere in his collar underneath the neck of his tie, and run it into a little pack. I don't have to worry about cell phone interference. I don't have to worry about all these different things that could go wrong with wireless. Now, the advantage to wireless is that you're able to monitor your levels while the groom is up front during the ceremony, those types of things. But I've found that for me, and for the way that I want to tell the story and the way I want the groom to experience the day, I just find this to be a lot easier. So that's the Roland RO5 recorder with the Countryman B6 lav mic. So real quick, I'm going to take a quick break, see if we have any questions. Ash, do you have any questions?
Do we mic the officiant as well?
Do you mic the officiant as well? Okay, so I do not mic the officiant. The mic that is on the groom, most of the time, it will pick up the officiant, the bride, and the groom all just fine. If it's going to be at a big Catholic ceremony or something like that, where oftentimes the officiant is very far away from the bride and groom, a lot of times in those cases they'll be using some sort of a in-house microphone system, in which case I'll just record that from the back. And if for some reason that they don't have a system, then yeah, I'll figure out some way to group mic him, either by putting the field recorder near his podium or something like that. It's kind of just thinking ahead and solving problems that way. Any other questions, Ash?
Can you show the recorder in Lav to them?
Oh, sure. Hold on. I do have it right here. All right. So here. All right. So this is the pocket recorder that we use. This is the Roland R05. Really simple. It has a few switches here on the back. It just takes SD cards. And then the mic that I'm talking about here, the Countryman B6, that comes in this nice little carrying case here. And what's great about it is that it has this right here is the mic head. So you can see that it's really, really tiny, comparison to my finger. And again, a lot of times it's really easy to hide. And the way that that I'll attach these is I use what's called Rycoat undercovers. So basically you have these little sticky pads right here that just stick. And then I have this little wind guy right here. So you put the sticky pad on here with the mic in between, and then I just either stick it right onto the groom or like under his collar or something like that. Works really, really well. So definitely suggest this. It's a little expensive. You can definitely get cheaper labs out there, but I just love the ability to hide it so it can't be seen. So there you go. Any other questions, Ash?
How much is it?
I believe they're $350. I got mine off B&H. It's a professional level thing. They use it a lot for stage productions. So they have tons of different ends. You've got to get the right one. So that was the thing that's hard to find, is getting the right one that goes for your adapter. This one, at the 1/8 inch jack. But they make them with all different kinds. So I got mine off B&H.
Talk a little bit about what we use to record from the back on our camera.
Sorry, what was that?
What do we use to record straight from our camera in the back of the church?
Oh, right. So in the back of the church and on all of our cameras throughout the ceremony, we really are only using just the shotgun mics that are on the cameras. And the only reason we're even using those is just for scratch audio. We're not really going to use any of that sound, other than sometimes for clapping or cheering and things like that happen at the end of a ceremony. But those are really just to get scratch audio, because we use a system called Pluralize. It's a program that will take all of our video files, all of our audio files, and it syncs them all up automatically. So all I really need to have is good scratch audio in those cameras, and then I just am only using the mic from the lab primarily. Any other questions, Ash?
Can you explain how you go about plugging into the DJ board? Has the DJ ever messed up your recordings?
Yeah, so usually most DJs are really willing to help. I have 3 different types of cords that I bring with me. I bring an XLR cable, I bring a 1/4 inch cable, and then I bring an RCA cable. I bring all 3 of these because those are pretty much the only 3 that they can use, or that they can have as a line out of their board. So no matter what kind of board they have, no matter what kind of a setup they have, I'm always ready. And basically what I just do is, before the reception gets started, I'll go find the DJ, ask him if I can have a line out from his board. And then we spend a few minutes there just making sure we get good levels and that type of thing. With the recorder that I use, which is right here, the Tascam DR40, what's nice about it is I'm able to record 2 tracks simultaneously. One is a -12 dB pad, which basically means that if for some reason my primary track is peaking, it's too loud, there's a second track recording right underneath it at a significantly lower decibel level. So the odds of both of those peaking are almost slim to none. So I'm covered there. I have had a few times in the past where just something goes wrong, something gets messed up, and there's really nothing you can do about it. That's why you want to try and make sure the levels in your camera are set as best as they can, because sometimes you do have to use that audio. But for the most part, I haven't had any problems. The only little pro tip, I guess, would be don't ask them when they're crazy busy setting up. I had a couple DJs. One time I asked a guy and he was really busy and he snapped at me. So just ask when they don't seem like they're doing a million things. And just ask nicely, and they always are pretty accommodating. Any other questions so far?
Are you getting to editing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Editing for audio?
No.
Just in general? Yeah, we're getting to that. We'll come to that in a second. So, all right, I'm going to keep moving just with a few more pieces of gear. Thank you guys for all the questions. Keep asking them. Again, Ash is monitoring, so that's great. All right, so the next thing I really want to talk about is stabilizers. So it's 4 main stabilizers that we use on a wedding day. We use a tripod, which we primarily use. We'll put our slider on there. We'll use it mostly for the ceremony, and then for speeches, and that's pretty much it. We don't really use the tripod for much anything throughout the day. We use the Manfrotto 561 BHDV-1, which Ash can type into the chat for you guys if you want. That's our monopod of choice, and it has the 3 little legs at the bottom, and we use that for 80% of the day. I use that for just about everything. It's really, really great, high, sturdy. It goes up to, I think, 6 feet tall. It's amazing. It has a fluid video head on the top, which is great, and then it has really smooth panning at the bottom, which is really helpful. Again, we use that for everything. You can get tons of creative types of shots with it, moving in and moving out once you kind of learn how to master it. We also use a slider. We use a Kenovo K3 slider. I really like that slider because it is a ball bearing slider, but it's on the more affordable side. It's about $350. And all the other ball bearing sliders I've ever seen had been in the $1,000 plus range. So this one is great. It's really, really smooth. It comes with a carrying case and legs and the whole thing for $350. Can't really go wrong with that. We use that for details, shooting details. We use it kind of for different creative shots throughout the day with the bride and the groom, for a lot of establishing shots of the venues, sliding out, sliding back in, those types of things. And then just I use this randomly for some dancing shots and any kind of creative shot I can think of throughout the day. And then lastly, we use the GlideCam HD 4000. Again, we use this for a lot of creative shots, any sort of big establishing shots of a venue. I always use this for the processional as the bride and groom, or the bride and her dad, are coming down the aisle, because I'm able to move with them, and kind of gives it. I really like the dynamic feel, as well as introductions to the reception. Same kind of deal. I'm able to make it feel really high energy when they're getting introduced, and then follow them throughout the entire reception hall. And then for dancing, which is my favorite, I like to dance with the GlideCam, which is always fun, kind of get right in there on the action and all that good stuff. Any questions, Ash? No, okay. So
the monopod info, what is it?
So the monopod is the 561 BHDV-1 from Manfrotto, and it's worth every penny. If I could suggest just one thing for you to buy, it would definitely be that monopod. It is absolutely amazing.
Thoughts on the 3-axis stabilizer?
Yeah, so that's okay. So perfect. That was my next thing I was going to hit on. So I use the GlideCam HD 4000. What's really, really popular right now are all the different types of 3-axis gimbals, such as the Movi or the DJI Ronin. Those are some of the more popular ones. So I've chosen the HD to go with the GlideCam for a few different reasons. One, cost. I already own the GlideCam, and I'd have to buy a new mechanical gimbal, whatever. And just for ease of use. So with the GlideCam, I have it already pre-balanced. I use the same camera with the same lens every single time, and I have a quick release plate that I have on there. So all I have to do is slide my camera on, do quick little micro adjustments, and I'm ready to go. I can go on and off it throughout the entire day, and it's just, it's light, it's small, it doesn't take up a lot of space. I can kind of set it in the corner, set it down. It's really easy to manage. With the gimbals, yes, I think they get amazing shots, and the things that you can do with them from a creative standpoint are just incredible. But the few little downsides that I see is that you have to have a separate battery for it. You've got to have the balancing stand for it. It takes up a lot more space. It takes a lot longer to balance, those types of things. So for me, in the style and the amount and the way that I use my GlideCam for moving shots, the GlideCam is just fine. Now, does that mean I'll never buy a gimbal? Probably not, because I really, really want one. But for weddings, I just don't see it being as practical for the way that we shoot. So yeah, so I hope, does that answer the questions, Ash? Okay, great. So again, with all these different stabilizers, the ones that I think that are the most important is the monopod, because I use that for, again, 80% of the day. I could shoot, if I had to shoot an entire wedding, I can only have one stabilizer. I would choose the monopod every time. The tripod is good to have. You can buy really cheap tripods. We have nicer Manfrotto tripods with fluid heads and things like that make things easier. But for what we use them for, which is really not very much, just for the ceremony and for a few things in the reception, you can get away with a more affordable tripod. And then for the slider and the glide cam, those are just kind of adding creative shots and adding, I call it icing on the cake. You don't need these to tell a good story. You don't need to have these slider shots and glide cam shots, all these different things to tell the story. They're more of the pizzazz. We want to make sure that we have good foundational storytelling elements, such as a good audio, a good storyline, those types of things. And these are kind of just extra. So as much as we want to try and focus on them, and it's really easy to get distracted by them, we want to focus primarily on the story and then kind of build these layers on top of that. So, all right, so that pretty much covers all the gear that we use from a photo perspective, or from a video perspective on a wedding day. As you can see, there's just kind of a lot of different things there, and we've been building this kit over many, many years, and it's sort of been a slow process. So yeah, so right now I'm going to kind of jump over into the more of the live Q&A. Hopefully hearing us just kind of talk about all these different things has sparked some questions in you guys' mind. I can go and answer those. So Ash, what are some questions that I can answer?
Did you do editing?
Oh, so was there a question about editing? What was the question?
Do we edit in Premiere or Final Cut Pro? And Final Cut Pro has the same thing, like Floral has called multicam.
Right. Okay, so for editing, we edit in Premiere Pro, mostly because I already have Adobe Creative Cloud, and it all comes with it. I've used Final Cut 10. I think that both are perfectly viable options for anybody making wedding films. From an investment standpoint, Final Cut is definitely cheaper. But yeah, so there is the multicam types of things that are built into both of those programs. Actually, I found that Pluralize is just easier to use, and it's just more reliable. And I'm still able to use the multicam features in Premiere Pro when I bring my timelines in from Pluralize. And if you actually go over to our blog and you search for Pluralize, I have a video on there kind of giving a quick little tutorial and showing how I use it and why I think it's so great. So I definitely suggest checking that out. So, Ash, next question.
Recorder mishaps. What do we do if the batteries die? How do we make it up?
Yeah, so with the recorders, there's always a chance something's going to happen. For batteries, I just try to make sure that they're fully charged before the beginning of the day. I use rechargeable batteries, so it's pretty easy to make sure that they're never going to die and they last forever anyway. But if something does happen and you lose the audio and you don't have it, the best thing to do is really to just be honest, to tell them like, hey, this is what happened. I'm so sorry. What can we do to fix it? So if you realize it on the day of, if you're able to go into the same space and have them say the vows again or whatever it might be, sometimes those are the best things to do. Checking the audio from your other cameras. Sometimes you can get a usable signal from one of your B-roll cameras that hopefully you can use. And if not, I mean, going to any length necessary, going to, meeting up with them sometime later to have them record their vows as a voiceover. Anything that you can do to really make sure that that they always will have that audio that they need and that you want for your story. Sometimes if it's for speeches and things like that, it may not be that important to them, but the most important thing is really just to be honest. Ash, any other questions?
Yep. Reception lighting.
So for reception lighting, honestly, we don't do anything for reception lighting. I know that there's plenty of people, and it's a very viable option to bring a small LED panel, putting it up on a light stand, those types of things. It's just not something that I've found necessary up until this point. Really what I do is I just crank my ISO really high on my 5D Mark III, and as long as your exposure is correct or pretty close to correct, so you don't have to save it like crazy in post, the image looks just fine. So a lot of times, honestly, when I'm glide camming at the end of a reception or something like that, I'll be at 8,000 ISO, 1/50th of a second, and 1.8 or 2.0, which sounds kind of crazy for glide cam, but when there's so many people on the dance floor and that kind of thing, there's always something that's in focus, and I've just figured out a way to make it work. And I like the look of that because it feels more real as to what it looked like on the day of. And yeah, we've just honestly never had to mess around with video lighting. So that's a good question, though. Ash, next question. Ash.
How does the Countryman V6 do if it's outdoor and there's a lot of wind?
Yeah, so what I was showing you earlier, there's actually two different types of over covers that I use. One is for wind. This little fluffy guy here will help with the wind, and then they actually have these smaller, thinner ones here. So with any sort of windy situation, you want to make sure you're using a dead cat or some sort of a wind cover like this. And that's another advantage of hiding it. There's only so much that you can do. If it's windy, if it's really, really windy, there's only so much you can do. But using that, trying to hide it in a good place where the wind isn't going to be able to get directly to it. You can even hide it under like an undershirt or something like that if it's really, really windy to protect it as much as possible. And sometimes that'll affect your highs in your audio signal, but honestly you can bring that back in post. I'd much rather have a kind of a flatter sound that I can tweak in post than really, really crazy wind noise. So using that little fuzzy cover helps.
How do you do lighting for sparkler exits?
So lighting for sparkler exits, I also don't use any lighting. So the sparklers give off enough light that honestly it's more light than I'm using for the dancing. So the way that we cover sparkler exits is most of the time I'm glide camming. I'm following the couple down with the glide cam, and Ash is shooting straight down as they're coming down. So there's always been enough light. I try and hopefully they light it with enough time that I can adjust my exposure and get it dialed in. And sometimes they'll start inside and they'll kind of go outside. If it's going to change a lot, I'll even set it to aperture priority so that it'll adjust for me automatically if I'm going from like one lighting situation into something very different, and kind of just letting it get me close enough.
Turnaround time.
Turnaround time. Okay, so our turnaround time right now is 1 to 2 months for a highlight film and 4 to 6 months for a feature film. So this is on the longer end of what we'd like it to be, but we always want to try and overpromise, underpromise, overdeliver. So yeah, so our goal is to do that faster, but that's what it is right now. So awesome. So as Ash is kind of pulling together some of the last few questions here, I just wanted to say it's kind of like to wrap this up a little bit here. We're going to do some more Q&A in just a second, but all these different, again, we're talking about all this different gear and all these different things today, and ultimately the thing I want to emphasize the most is that the story is what it's all about. Everything that we do, everything that we talk about is all about the story, and there's so much more to wedding filmmaking than gear. And it's something that I'm not going to be able to explain to you in this short little webinar. There's just so much that goes into it. But if it's something that you're interested in, if you want to know more about how to tell dynamic stories, how to tell really make really emotionally driven films that people are able to connect with, and that go above and beyond. If you're a beginning filmmaker and you want to know how to get into doing this, we are offering, for the first time ever, we're offering a workshop, and we're going to teach all of these different things, everything that we've learned in the last 4 years for how to make really dynamic, engaging wedding films. We're going to be teaching in a 2-day workshop. It's going to be coming up in November 9th and 10th. We only have a few spots left. Ash, how many do we have left? 2 or 3? We have 2 or 3 spots left, but it's going to be amazing. So all the stuff we talked about today, we're going to go even more in depth. We're talking about storytelling, we're talking about editing, everything you need to know about running a wedding filmmaking business. And not just how to capture the moments and not just how to use your camera, but really how to tell dynamic stories and how to take your wedding films to the next level. So if that sounds like that's something that might be interesting to you, something that you would want to learn, we'd love for you to jump over to our website. The link is, if you're on our website, it's right below the box. If you're on YouTube, it's in the description right there. But it's it's the Wedding Filmmakers Workshop. It's going to be November 9th and 10th here in Richmond, Virginia. And we're super, super excited about it. So we're going to go ahead and continue with some more Q&A. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew about that, make sure you guys were aware. And yeah, we hope some of you guys are able to come out and join us. I know some of you in here are already coming, which is super exciting, and we're really excited for it. So cool. Ash, any other questions?
How does the photographer deal with you running behind the couple during the spark race?
Yeah, so I crouch really, really low, and I use all my leg muscles. Really, I just use the couple to block me completely, and I make sure that I'm completely hidden by them. And I've never had a photographer have any problem with it. And I try and stay relatively close to them. And honestly, if I'm completely in the photographer's shot for some strange reason, I'm not above asking them to do it again. So, but yeah, I've never had any problems with it.
Have you ever heard of Still Motion's Muse program?
Yes, I love Still Motion. Still Motion is amazing. Their Muse program sounds like it's a really, really great investment. It's something I actually really highly consider doing, and still I consider doing. But Still Motion, yeah, they are the kings of story, and they have inspired me a lot. A lot of what I know, a lot of what I believe as far as wedding films goes is derived from those guys. So they're awesome. Ash?
You can talk a little bit about preferring photo over video. I kind of already answered the question.
Photo over video?
Oh, you said XLR, quarter inch, and what else earlier?
Oh, RCA. So that's the one that has the little red and the white. And then it just depends what kind of recorder you're using. But it will look, mine looks like this. Mine happen to be orange and gray. But you know, you just take whatever your left and right is, and then you get your other left and right down here to go into your recorder. And that'll actually give you a stereo channel, which is nice. Sometimes if you just use quarter inch, you'll only get a mono channel, but it's not a huge deal. All right, let's see if I can see any of these questions.
Are we going to United?
Are we going to New United? No, unfortunately, we are not going to United. We don't actually use Show It, so we're not really part of that, so we're not going to be going. Let's see. Oh, I'm going the wrong way in the chat here. Hold on.
Can you share what kind of lights you use for other types of videos?
Sure. So the lights that we use for all of our interviews and anything like that, and that we're actually using right here, right now, is a Westcott TD6 spider light. And we bought the kit also from B&H Photo. It comes with two 24 by 36 inch soft boxes, 2 heads, and all the different flashes, all the different bulbs. And basically they are great because they are daylight balanced to 5500 Kelvin. They stay true to their color really, really well. They don't fluctuate. Some cheaper lights will kind of fluctuate warmer and cooler as you're filming. These ones stay really, really consistent. And they give you 3 tiers of power. So you can do 1/3, 2/3, or full. power, which just gives you a lot of control. And just like any other Westcott product, you can switch out the modifiers for whatever you want. We got the big soft boxes, but you can get strip boxes, you can buy grids, you can buy all that kind of stuff to put with them. And they work really, really well. Westcott TD6 Spider Light. All right, awesome. Any other questions, Ash?
Can you talk more about the difference between shooting a photo versus a video wedding? How do we work with photographers?
Sure. Yeah. So working with photographers is really, really crucial to wedding filmmaking. And honestly, I feel like our films come together a lot better when we're working with a really great photographer. So the primary thing to do is just to focus on communication. Communication is huge. Making sure that you are constantly checking with them, seeing what they're trying to do, trying to see what you're trying to do, especially for something like the ceremony, when there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving pieces. Just having a quick little powwow right before, like, okay, hey, where are you going to stand? Where do you normally like to be? This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm trying to do. Does that work for you? Sometimes you'll find out like, oh, you're planning on shooting this way. Well, if I come right behind here and then jump behind this bush, is that enough time for you to get the shot you need? A lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, that's perfect. Thanks so much. So just really communicating throughout the day, making sure you're on the same page and remembering that we're both, we're both trying to serve the bride and groom as best as possible. And it's not a competition, so.
Talk a little bit more about our bag.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the bag that we use is a Think Tank Logistics Manager 30, and it is amazing. It's similar to the Think Tank Airporter, which a lot of people are familiar with, but it's bigger, it's longer, and it's also deeper. So I can fit a 70 to 200 straight up and down vertically within there. So right now I think we have 12 lenses, 4 cameras, all of our flashes, all of our audio gear, and then all the miscellaneous batteries and chargers and cords and recorders and mics and everything all fits in this one bag. It's super heavy. It probably weighs like 50 or 60 pounds, but it's really, really great. It's kind of expensive, but it gives us peace of mind that we're not forgetting anything because literally everything is in there. So I think Ash
Where do we position
posted the link to it.
Yeah. Where do we position ourselves for the ceremony, and how do we communicate with each other and the photographer?
So for the ceremony, it's kind of hard to say for every single one because every venue is a little bit different, and you kind of got to see it before you can kind of decide your game plan. But most of the time, Ash will be on a tripod with the 70-200 on the side where she'd be shooting towards the bride's face. We have a 60D with a 35 on a tiny little cheap tripod that we just sit at the front of the aisle shooting back down to get the bride. That's just like really discreet and kind of out of the way. I'll be on the glide cam with the 5D and the 28, following the bridal party as they come in and then following the bride as she's coming in. And then the C100 will be on a tripod with some sort of whatever lens will work with how big or small the ceremony is. And basically once she comes down the aisle, I put the C100 in the back, shooting down, and that records the entire time. Ash is shooting kind of whatever's happening, the action, and then focusing on vows. And then I'll jump off of the glide cam, jump on my monopod, and with a longer lens, usually the 100mm macro or 85, depending on the venue, I'll go around and I'll be shooting little B-roll details, things like that. And then I'm focusing on the groom for his vows. And then Ash gets a side kiss shot. We have the back wide kiss shot with the C100, and I'm trying to find some sort of a creative perspective to get the kiss shot from my side. So yeah, and then as far as communication goes, there's not a whole lot of communication that needs to happen. We do this a lot, so we kind of know what to do. I have some sort of hand signals, like you're shooting like tight, medium, or wide, those types of things if I need to ask what she's doing, but most of the time I know what Ash is shooting and she knows what I'm shooting. And yeah, with the photographer, again, I just try and communicate with her before as much as possible. And then after that, it's sort of just a lot of like pointing and like this kind of deal. So awesome. So we can take a few more questions here.
how do we make sure we get everything we need?
How do we make sure we get everything we need is the question. And that's a really, really good question. A lot of it comes from just experience and having done it a lot. But a really helpful thing that we do is we have a pre-wedding questionnaire that we send out to the bride and groom that Ash sends out a few weeks before the wedding, and that helps to make sure that we're aware of all the different things that are going on throughout the day. We want to make sure we know about if there's any special people who will be there, if there's like a grandma or a grandpa who's come from a long way. Are they writing notes to each other? What are some things about them? And then just getting to know our couples through social media and through our initial Skype chat and those types of things. The more we know about them and the more we know about their families and their stories and those types of things, the more prepared we can be for the wedding day to capture it. As far as knowing what to capture on the wedding day, there's no right or wrong. We don't have a list of we have to have X, Y, and Z. Or I need a detail shot of the height of the flower and whatever. I kind of just know that every time I approach a scene, I'm approaching it with a storytelling perspective, and I kind of know what shots I need to tell that story. So I think that answers the question. But especially if you're new and that types of thing, what I really love to do is watch wedding films that inspire me, that I think are really, really great, and really take note of what types of shots that they're getting. Is this a tight shot? Is this a wide shot? Is this a medium shot? What type of lens do I think that they're using for this particular shot? When they shot this with a really wide lens, how did that make me feel as a viewer? How does these shots make me feel? All those types of things are constantly going on in my mind as I'm shooting, choosing what lenses to get, and those types of things. And then just making sure that I'm pre-planning in my head what's about to happen. And the more I know, the more I can prepare for what lens I want to have, where I need to be, what stabilizer I need to be on, those types of things.
Okay, there's a question for me. Someone pop over for me.
Oh, okay. Ash is going to answer a question. Here we go. Come back in, Ash. Welcome back.
Hi guys. So there was a question about packaging, and that's mainly my role in the business. I do a lot of the back end type stuff. He focuses solely on editing. So as far as packaging goes, I really appeal more to, especially with video, what are they going to be doing when they're opening this package? So our hope is that they watch it immediately. We include a little bottle of local solder. We love solder, so we include that. We include the USB, and I have a little box that it goes into, and we tie it up with ribbon and put a sticker that has our logo on it. I also include a handwritten note, which is so funny. That's always everyone's favorite thing, is the handwritten note, and it's personalized with our logo and those type things. And let's see, what else do we include in that?
I think the main thing with video is it's hard because there's nothing really tangible for them to have. With photos, obviously you can print your photos and those types of things. But for video, everything is very digital. So we want to make sure that they feel like they're definitely getting something of value when they open it. Obviously, the film is great, but just from a logistical standpoint and just as humans, I think we want to have something kind of tangible. So the more that we can give them that makes them really feel like what they're getting is really valuable and high end and those types of things. That's kind of our goal with our packaging.
Somebody also asked, do we ever shoot photo and video simultaneously? And if we do that, what we deliver looks a little bit different. I will include some prints in those, but we have kind of steered away from shooting both video and photo at a wedding because we feel that we better serve our client if we're just doing one medium at a time. I would think it's different if you're a husband and wife team or you're a partnered team and one has solely shot photography before and the other wants to move more into video. It would be easier to do both because you can both hire seconds because that's what you're used to doing. We've always just shot together, so it's easier for us to do one medium at a time. I'm going to pop back over here and check some more questions.
Yeah, so as far as photo and video goes, we have done it, and the hard thing is that the way that we shoot for photo and video is I'm the primary shooter and Ash is the secondary shooter. So in order for us to have that reverse, so if we were to do both photo and video, we would need to hire another first shooter. And the problem with that is then it becomes really tricky with contracts and why are we hiring them and are we making profit off of them? It just becomes kind of a weird thing. The few times that I have done it, I'll solo shoot photo and we'll hire another videographer, and then Ash and the other videographer will shoot for just a highlight film. So they're not shooting for a full coverage, just a highlight film. And then I'm kind of helping them and directing them throughout the day as well as shooting the photos. So it's just kind of stressful for me, to be completely honest. So it's possible, it's definitely doable. But for us, we kind of prefer not to. So
what companies inspire you?
What companies inspire me?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good question. So definitely Still Motion. I mentioned them earlier. They started off doing weddings. They've moved more into more of a kind of commercial realm these days. But their whole big thing is all about storytelling, and they are awesome. So Still Motion, ClickSpark up in Baltimore, those guys are amazing. When I first started doing this, my first person I ever started following is Josh Gooden, which a lot of you local Virginians will know. He's an amazing videographer here in Virginia. Gosh, what's his name? Ray Roman makes some really great films. He's more of a high-end kind of guy. He's definitely a different style, but I really appreciate the way he runs his business. Joe Simon. And Joe Simon, he with the Delivery Men, he's just amazing. He makes these really crazy cinematic films that are just really, really awesome to watch. So, Ash, are you going to show them some show and tell here?
Can you get the recipe for me?
Oh yeah. Hold on.
Okay, so you guys asked to see what we include in ours. We just use like a standard white fold-up box, and I fill it with some filler. I don't know what you call that. It's like shredded paper, but it's crinkled. You know what I mean? We use that. Here's our stationery. It just says the Herrintons at the top, and I write a cute little note on there. Our USB. This is what our USB looks like. It has our logo on there. And I put that inside of a box like this, and I kind of like put a little ribbon around it, and then I seal it with our logo sticker. And this is our favorite cider that's local here in Richmond, and we put that in there too. We also, the client experience is a really big deal to us, so we kind of start out, we kind of just like start right off the bat with gifts, and we send out a little magazine that tells a little bit more about our business and kind of how things progress through their engagement, and what kind of role we play in the whole thing. And we have personalized mugs, and if you guys follow us on Instagram, you know that I love mugs, and my hashtag is #AshLovesMugs, and we love that. So we have a little business personalized mug that says the Herrintons on it, and I also send out cookies that are shaped like this as our logo. They're shaped just like that, and I send that out as well. And then 30 days before their wedding, I send out a little gift card for them to go on a date, and we say to like not talk about the wedding at all. And clients just love that so much. So they really love that we value time together and we value the story that's being written through the whole thing. Okay, so I'm gonna pop back over here and just make sure we're up to date.
Awesome, thank you, Ash. So yeah. All right, so we're just gonna take a few more questions here. We're gonna jump off here. We're gonna, we actually have to head to Tuesdays together tonight. Quick little plug, if any of you guys are creatives, and you haven't heard of the Rising Tide Society, go search for them on Facebook. It's just an amazing community of creatives all over the country, and we have monthly meetups, and ours happens to be tonight. So we're going to take just maybe a few last questions here, if there are any straggling questions. But yeah, so check that out, the Rising Tide Society on Facebook.
How large is this?
So we got 16 gig USBs. Probably don't need 16 gigs, but I wanted to be safer than sorry, in case somebody gets like a lot of extra videos or something like that. I didn't want to have to send them to, which in retrospect would have probably been cheaper, but you can probably get away with 8 gigs. I would suggest 8 gigs, depending on your delivery size.
Do we offer the raw files?
Okay, so the question is, do we offer the raw files? And that is a moral dilemma that I don't know, struggle with, but there's kind of two fields of thought on that. One is like, sure, we'll send you the raw files, but just charge them a really high price for it. If they really want it and they really want to pay for it, go for it. There's not a lot they can do with it. They're not going to be able to blast it out or whatever. The other school of thought is like, no, like that's our, like, we don't want people seeing that. Our special sauces in our editing, which is true. We don't want people to get their hands on that. Who knows what they could do with it? Da, 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 da. I kind of go back and forth. If someone's super insistent on it, sometimes we make exceptions. For the most part, we do not offer it. We don't have it as an a la carte package price or anything like that. But I can see both sides.
What about 4K?
4K, that's a good question. So yeah, 4K is becoming more and more popular these days. I think a lot of the general population doesn't really know exactly what 4K means. Essentially, it's just a much larger file. So if 1080p, if your video is about this big, 4K is probably about this big. For weddings, I can definitely see some value in it for certain situations, because basically you can crop in on a 4K and get a 1080 image anywhere within that frame without losing any quality. And that is very intriguing to me. I think that would be great. I still would probably deliver at 1080 until 4K becomes more of the standard and more of the norm. It just doesn't seem worth it to me to shoot in 4K because the file sizes are humongous. And it's already a lot of footage as it is with weddings and managing all that and that kind of thing. So I think there's definitely value in it for certain situations if you use it really intentionally, being able to zoom in and crop in and punch in, that type of thing. But as far as delivering in 4K, I think we're still a few years away from that.
How many gigs of footage do we film on a wedding day, and do we edit from internal hard drive or stream from external?
Okay, so 2 questions. The first is, how many gigs of footage do we shoot on wedding day? So back when we were only shooting on the DSLRs, and I was shooting with the 5D as my primary camera, we were shooting around like 120 to 150 gigs of total media throughout the day, you know, from the cameras, from all the audio recorders, etc. Now that I've switched to the C100 has a much more effective codec, so you get much smaller file sizes coming out of there in the AVC HD format. But basically, I'm down to probably around 80 to 100 gigs of footage for a wedding day. That's between 4 cameras, 2 audio recorders, and that's about it. So, and then what was the second question, Ash? Remind me. Oh, so as far as editing goes, the question was, do we edit off of a drive or do we edit straight off of our internal hard drive on our desktop? And so for a while, I was editing on my internal hard drive, but it kept getting too full. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm not able to bring it with me, all sorts of different problems. So what I do now is I have 2 Western Digital 3 terabyte desktop drives that just sit on my desk. They're USB 3.0, so they're really fast. And basically, I edit my videos straight off of there, and they're just mirrored to each other. And so I edit off of those, and then once I deliver the final product to the customer, they have everything they need. Then I will take all of the footage off of there, and I will put it onto my Drobo. And the Drobo is for video is where I just archive things. So yeah, I found that to be fast enough. I haven't had any problems really with doing it that way. The only time I run into issues is if something is backing up to one of those drives for some reason while I'm trying to edit. It'll slow everything down. But I just watch everything back at half quality on Premiere, and I don't have any problems. Premiere is pretty good at handling that kind of thing. Any more questions, Ash?
They just said thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for jumping on here. Ash, do you want to come over here to say goodbye? So we appreciate you guys spending your afternoon with us. We hope you enjoyed this.
Or just an hour of your
little
afternoon.
Webinar. That's right, an hour of your afternoon. But we hope to do some more of these in the future. We just love talking about weddings. We love educating and all those types of things. So again, if you are interested in our workshop, the Wedding Filmmakers Workshop, please go ahead and check on the link below to check all that out. And again, there's only 2 or 3 spots left. So if you're interested, go ahead and send us an email or go ahead and register. So yeah, Ash, do you have anything else you want to say?
Kaylin, I see your question, and we can probably send you an email. Okay, bud? Okay. Yeah, this is always really fun. It's always fun. I love connecting with other creatives, and you guys' questions are so good. You guys are so great. But yeah, you should come to our workshop. We would love to have you in Richmond, and it would just be so fun. We do have a couple spots left, and Richmond is awesome. Right, Ty?
Right. We love Richmond. And again, today we were able to just kind of scratch the surface of what wedding film, like the wedding films are so much more than gear. I love the gear and it's important to an extent, but it's so much more than that. And we're going to cover everything else, this and everything else in our workshop. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
and this is going to be available for to rewatch if you're interested in that. So we'll see you all later and have a great day. So
bye.
Thanks. Bye, guys.